Just last week we were talking about England 6, Iran 2, and I channeled my inner James Alcott to celebrate England's victory in the hope that this could be that World Cup. I come in today and the talk is why England won't win the World Cup. Didn't look very impressive against USA, a little bit timid, a little bit afraid, substitutions were negative for most people, and England leave with a 0-0, and now the narrative has completely flipped on its head that yes, England were brilliant against Iran, but actually Iran weren't good enough. Whereas on the day when England beat Iran, the conversation was they're a good side and England were very good. Where does that leave you at the moment with the situation England are in?
A little bit undecided, to be honest. I like everyone, was impressed with the first game, especially from an attacking aspect. Got a little bit sloppy in defence, which I think I'll lead on to, which I think is going to end up being our biggest problem. I think all over the pitch you can. Although I was quite pleased with how Harry Maguire and Stones played. I think in the second game against the States, I don't think there was many people you could kind of give pass marks to in the England team. I know there's a lot of focus that is going on about why Foden isn't in the team and Kane's underperforming and stuff. But if you look throughout the whole team, I don't think there was many that played well. Now, in saying that, we'd like to think that there'd be an improvement against Wales, but I still worry about us defensively. The fact that we conceded a couple of goals against a poor team, and then we gave up a good few chances against. I don't think the States are a great team, to be honest, and we're going to come up against better opposition than that in the knockout stages. I worry about us defensively, and you can't help but focus on the fact that Harry Kane does look a little bit underperforming to the levels that he's used to, and I think if we are to go far in the tournament, I think we need our number 9 not only scoring goals but doing a little bit more for the team as well.
Yeah, I totally agree. Everyone's on such a high after the Iran game, and I think I was about to say loss against USA, but the draw against USA, it felt like a loss, and it kind of brought people back down to reality. I think the truth lies somewhere in between that Iran result and the USA result. I think Southgate's a pragmatic manager. He takes it game by game, but I do think in the game against USA, he looked ahead. He looked ahead to where we're going to sit if we draw that game. We just made sure that we didn't lose that game, and it meant that we were basically qualified, barring a heavy defeat against Wales. But in that, it's kind of there's brought like negativity amongst England fans in terms of the way Southgate goes about things, and I think some of that criticism is warranted when you look at how kind of reactive he is when it comes to substitutions. We saw Hansi Flick and Luis Enrique make changes in the Germany-Spain game and change the game completely. When England needed a goal, we saw Southgate bring on Jordan Henderson. People can argue that maybe he wasn't trying to win the game, but I feel like if you're England and you've got those players in abundance, especially players like Jack Grealish, and Phil Foden sit on the bench, you are gonna garner criticism from fans if you don't bring those players off the bench, because they are game changers. We see them play for the best team in the country week in, week out, and change the game. And if Gareth Southgate's not deeming them good enough to come and play for England, then there's going to be a disconnect there between fans and the England team. So I think some of the criticism is warranted, but Southgate has done enough to get us through the group, and he's going to take it game by game. And I feel like it's similar to the Euros when we drew against Scotland. Everyone thought the sky was falling. We're going to get through the group, and it depends on who we play in the knockout phases.
I think what's really interesting is the Foden debate that was discussed a lot on social media that day. I kind of left that sort of going, I love Phil Foden, but in Southgate's plans, in Southgate's team, the only position he can play is where Saka plays. Because he's not going to drop Raheem Sterling. He's been unbelievable for England. He's not going to drop Harry Kane. He'd have to change his system, which he's not going to do. So that leaves you a choice between Saka and Foden. And then when I asked people that question, everyone said I'd probably have Saka on the basis of this season and the way he fits in with Harry Kane. So then Foden probably doesn't really fit into Southgate's plans there. Then the next sort of buck that goes along is to Mason Mount, as a lot of people saying, why is he playing? And like, you're a Chelsea fan, Jody. I know you probably know Mason Mount. I can kind of leave that going. Okay, if you take Mason Mount out this side, who do you want to play there? Then you'll complain that Henderson can't play there. So, there's a lot of we're going to complain. If there's changes to be made, where do you see those changes?
I mean, pre-tournament, I picked my starting 11 and Foden was in it instead of Saka. But I was leaning towards the fact that I think from the all-round play as an individual, I think Foden's super talented, and you have to try and get him in the team. But is he worth a space in front of Saka? I'm not so sure. As far as the Mason Mount argument goes, I think Gareth made it clear that he knows what he gets from Mason, even when he's not playing well, like most of the team didn't. He knows what he gets off the ball, and tactically he's spot on from a defensive aspect, defending higher up the pitch. And you also have to say, Mason Mount was brilliant in the first game. Even though he never got his goal, he was brilliant in the first game. I get the arguments because you've got such talented players that are on the sidelines. My thing with it is that, listen, Gareth has got what he deems to be success in 2 previous tournaments from managing the way that he wants to manage, and he doesn't fold to outside noise. I think whenever you've seen Gareth speak about the England group and the squad, they try and block out anything from the outside, from people like ourselves or the media or fans, and he has to focus on being the manager that he wants to be and what he believes is the best for the team. And I like and admire the fact that Gareth doesn't fold to outside noise. And yes, it looked super safe, and obviously we're talking, was that reactive as far as we're going to go with the negative subs? You could argue it was proactive. He just felt, I don't want to lose the game. I don't want to lose the game because I know that leaves us in a great spot going into the last game against Wales. Now, if we go and beat Wales, by however many much, I hope it's a lot. We won't be talking about the United States game, and that's us as a country, us as the media. That's exactly how we're going to be until we eventually lose a game or whatever. As I said, I'd just like everyone to stay a little bit more positive about it and make sure that we go into the Wales game with a positive spin. But would I like to see Foden on the pitch for a little bit longer? Absolutely.
And that's the thing with Phil Foden as well. It's like words have been used like generational talent, and when you've got somebody so special and somebody that's admired by so many different managers around the world, it does kind of. England always have that player at a tournament. Last tournament it was Jack Grealish, and there's been different players where like you just latch onto a player because you think they're going to make the team better. But like you said, Southgate's record in terms of the England manager at major tournaments is impeccable. No one expected England to get to the semi-final of the World Cup in 2018, and they did that. And got to the final of the Euros. Granted, I think we probably should have won that tournament based on where it was held and based on the team that we had and the team that we faced in the final. But he's done a really great job. So people have to back him because the results speak for themselves. And I think most of the negativity surrounding it probably comes from the Nations League games that haven't gone our way and the fact that we're on such a long winless run heading into this tournament. But he's doing his job. England are on 4 points right now and should qualify out
the problem is as well is that when you talk about tight games or teams underperforming, usually the player that suffers is the 10. You look at Messi, when they're playing against 2 blocks and there's no spaces, the 10 is missing out. Neymar couldn't get on the ball in the 10. Mace couldn't get on the ball in the 10 against States. Even De Bruyne, I know he's had a lot of the ball, but he hasn't been playing like your usual number 10s. Yeah. I think the time for the number 10s to kind of show up and show what they're made of is in when you play against better opposition that will then leave you with a little bit more space and more opportunity to get on the ball and hurt these teams. Would you have seen much of Foden in the States game? I doubt you would have. I think a lot of the time it's the wide boys that are getting the opportunity to maybe get at people in one-on-one situations. But I think you'll see I think we'll see Gareth using Foden. I do, but I just whether he thought the United States game, considering how bad everyone was playing and we wasn't as fluent in the possession of the ball, and the fact that he takes off Bellingham, who's an outstanding young talent who's great with the ball at his feet, and goes for Jordan, maybe leans itself to the fact that he thought, do you know what, there's too many of us that are underperforming, let's just make sure we don't lose.
Yeah, I think also with that in mind as well, that left people going, he's bringing on Henderson to make us less fun to watch. I think that's been a constant criticism of Gareth Southgate's England, that tactically we're probably not the most fluid nation. And in my opinion, I think managing international football and managing club football is very different. Luis Enrique and Hansi Flick are from club football backgrounds, so tactical flexibility is in their DNA. Gareth Southgate is an international football manager where I think the basis of what you do is built around team cohesion, and then you go forward into the tactical side of things. Yes, I do think England could be more tactically fluid, and people are saying we win games on set pieces, but if England win the World Cup final 1-0 from a corner, nobody will care. And I think you play to your strengths.
Yeah, well, I've heard Iniesta talk about it when Spain won that incredible run from Euro 2008 to Euro 2012, where they won 2 Euros in the World Cup. Everyone has this allure idea that it was tiki-taka constantly. It wasn't. They picked their moments. Obviously, the football was more progressive than England are playing right now, but they did pick their moments. The games were very tight, and they rode their luck in certain moments. And I'm not, in no way am I comparing this England side to that Spain side.
I was just gonna jump in there. It's the greatest international team of all time.
I'm not comparing them, but in terms of international football, you're completely right. You're like, it's not all about the fluid football. It's about winning games. It's about getting through your group. And I don't know, in 2018, we threw the last game really against Belgium to get on the right side of the draw. So it's about picking your moments. I think Southgate's proved that he can do that. And like I say, he's primed. He's a primed international manager that's got experience at this level.
Cup football for me, it's the amount of competitions, whether it be international or Champions League or domestic cup competitions. I'll tell you what, if you look at the best teams in the tournament, it's rare you see the best teams in the tournament win. For me, that's cup football. So that means, for starters, are we the best team in the tournament? I'd probably say no. But have we got a chance of winning? Yeah.
Thanks so much for watching ESPN on YouTube. And for more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for premium content and live streaming, subscribe to ESPN Plus.